Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm a speech language pathologist. And today we're going to be talking about the R. There are several different ways to make the R, and the R can be very complicated. Many SLPs call the R the dreaded R. I love working with the R, so I want to tell you a little bit about it. There are two different ways to make the R. One way is called the bunched R, and that is where your tongue moves back and up, and the sides of the tongue touch the sides of your molars. So that's really important that your child understands that your molars are the anchor. That tongue has to anchor to the molars, and that's how you make a really good R. So your tongue goes back, up, touching the molars, You want to make sure that you're not adding a vowel to that sound because then you're making it more difficult and you're making a consonant vowel combination. So just So my tongue is back and up, Now the other way you can make the R is a retroflex R, and that's where your tongue actually curls up and touches the roof of your mouth. So my tongue is going to go up, touch the roof of my mouth, my palate, So that's a different way to make the R. Neither way is wrong. It's just different. So R is a lot of trial and error, just trying to figure out what works. But I think the biggest thing is using a mirror and making sure that child is aware of what their tongue is doing and what articulators it's touching. When you make the retroflex R, your tongue still is on those molars. So that's really important part of making that R sound. There are 3 different types of R that we're going to talk about. The prevocalic R, which is an initial R, and so that's like red, rope. That's where the R is at the beginning of the word. And that's where you're going to figure out which type of R you want to use, the bunched R or the retroflex R, and then work on correctly producing that sound. And you can use the same technique as what we use in the other videos, and that's just making that sound and adding a consonant to it. I mean, a vowel to it. So consonant vowel, ray, re, ri, ro, ru. And then you can add a consonant to the end that they're successful in making. So if they can make the T sound, you could say rate, rate, right, wrote, root. One of the hardest things about R, children usually want to round their lips and make the W if they're incorrectly producing the R. So one way that I work on that is to have the child smile when they're making the R so that it brings their lips back, so that they can't go into that W sound, way, by pulling their lips back, just at the beginning when you're first working on that sound. That's just one helpful hint that can help them make sure that their lips are not going into the W sound. When we make the R, a lot of times our lips are forward, like ray. They don't have to be. You can make it by moving your lips a lot of different ways. So it's really about where the tongue is in your mouth, and that's how you're correctly producing it. We have R blends, which is another type of R that we need to work on, and that's when R is added to another consonant. So we have like GR, TR, DR, and being able to combine the R with that other consonant is a skill that some children do need explicit teaching in. And then the last part of R that we often need to work on is the vocalic R. And the vocalic R is when an R comes after a vowel. Examples of vocalic R's are OR, AR, AIR, IRE, ER, and EAR. So these can be very difficult to for a child to produce, and it's really important that they understand how to make the R correctly, and then making sure that their jaw is in the correct placement. A lot of times when you add a vowel to an R, their jaw will drop, and that really crisp R with their tongue not being stabilized on their molars turns into a sound that sounds more like instead of it drops, and you can hear it. Like if you say water, 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 my tongue dropped. So working on these, you can really focus on the vowel that's combined with the R. You can also co-articulate where you're using a word, like if they have an R word that they're correctly producing, like rope, you could combine that with this ending sound that you're trying to get, so that you're teaching them to kind of slide in to that correct sound. So let's say he says rope correctly, so you're going to say rope, rope, or like R. If you're trying to get them to say car-ed, car-ed. So you're sliding from car into red because they can already correctly produce the red. And that's when you're co-articulating. Another tip that I have for R is sometimes kids just have a hard time getting their tongue up and onto their molars. And if you have the child say E, you see how the tongue goes back, E, and up. That's one way to kind of shape ear, shape into the sound. Another way is for them to make the k sound. If you make that sound and slide into the R, you'll see how similar they are. So think of some of those back sounds that you're making correctly and just kind of shape the R from some of those sounds. If you're doing some trial and error with R and you're really struggling, it is a good idea to consult with a speech language pathologist so that your child can get the therapy and the services that they need. Don't forget to practice, 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 and use a mirror. That is always so important. And if you have any questions, just let us know. Happy practicing.